My husband kicked me out of the car in front of my father's mansion because he thought I was only the poor woman he married by mistake. He did it at the gate. Not quietly, not privately, not with even one drop of shame. The rain had just started, soft at first, tapping against the windshield like a warning. The road leading to the mansion was lined with royal palms, white stone lanterns, and black iron fencing so tall it made the house beyond it look like a palace, hiding from the world. Golden lights glowed from the windows. Security guards stood near the entrance. Cameras followed every movement. And inside the car, my husband, Adrian West, gripped the steering wheel with one hand and pointed toward the gate with the other. "Get out!" he said. I turned slowly to face him. "What?" "You heard me, Zara. Get out of my car." His voice was calm. That was the worst part. Not shouting, not shaking. Calm. The kind of calm people use when they have already decided you are beneath mercy. I looked at the mansion through the rain-specked window, my chest tightening in a way I could not explain. I had never been there before, not since I was a baby too young to remember. Yet something about the place felt like a hand pressing gently against a locked door inside me. My father's mansion. The mansion everyone in the city whispered about. The home of Elias Harrington. Trillionaire investor. Shipping king. Hospital owner. Energy magnate. The man whose name could bend banks, frighten ministers, and make CEOs stand straighter when he entered a room. The man Adrian had begged for months to meet. The man my husband believed could save his failing construction company with one signature. And the man Adrian did not know was my father, because to Adrian, I was only Zara, the quiet wife, the girl from the small town, the woman who worked as a clinic administrator before marriage, the woman who wore simple dresses, saved old jars, helped his mother cook during holidays, and never bragged about the bloodline hidden behind her mother's surname. He knew I had no relationship with my father. He knew my mother had raised me alone. He knew she died without explaining much. He knew I grew up believing my father had abandoned us. But he did not know the name. Not fully. Not truly. I had told him once that my father was a wealthy man my mother refused to discuss. Adrian had laughed and said, "Everyone's father becomes wealthy in their imagination when poverty gets too heavy." I never mentioned it again. Now we were at Elias Harrington's gate because Adrian had received a last-minute invitation to a private investor reception. He had spent the entire drive complaining about my dress, my hair, my silence, and the fact that his mother had told him bringing me would make him look less polished. He had not wanted me there, but the invitation had said spouses were welcome, and Adrian's public image still needed a wife. At least, until 5 minutes before we arrived. That was when his phone rang. His mother, Vivian West. I could hear her voice even though it was not on speaker. "Adrian, listen to me. Do not walk into that mansion with Zara looking like that. Cassandra is already there. Investors will compare. Cassandra, of course. Cassandra Vale. Daughter of a billionaire developer. Adrian's strategic partner. The woman who had been appearing beside him at meetings, dinners, site visits, charity events, and once, in a hotel lobby photo, someone sent me with no caption because the picture spoke clearly enough. Adrian had denied everything, then stopped denying, then started calling me insecure. Now Cassandra was inside my father's mansion, and my husband wanted to enter without the wife who reminded him of promises he had outgrown. "Get out," he repeated. I stared at him. "In the rain? There's a guardhouse. Call a taxi. You brought me here. And now I'm asking you to leave." Asking? His jaw tightened. "Don't start." I looked down at my hands. They were folded over my small black purse, the one he had mocked earlier because it did not have a designer logo. "Adrian," I said quietly, "if you make me step out of this car tonight, do not expect me to come home." He laughed. Not loudly, just enough to cut. "Home? Zara, be serious. Where will you go?" I looked at him then. Really looked. At the expensive suit I had helped him choose. At the watch he bought after I quietly paid 3 months of office rent when his company was short. At the man I had loved when he was not yet cruel. At the man who once said my calm made him feel safe. "Somewhere I'm not thrown away before a party," I said. His face hardened. "You always do this. You turn everything into drama. Tonight matters. Harrington is inside. Cassandra's father is inside. Real people are inside. I cannot afford embarrassment. Real people." There it was. Not rich people. Not investors. Real people. And I was unreal because I did not glitter enough for his ambition. I opened the door. Rain rushed in. Cold air touched my face. For a moment, he looked surprised that I moved so quickly. Then he leaned over and pushed my small overnight bag toward me. The bag landed on the wet pavement. I stepped out. My heel slipped slightly. I caught myself against the car door. Adrian looked forward, refusing to meet my eyes. "Zara," he said, "don't make me regret trying to help you all these years." I froze. Trying to help me. The man whose bills I had covered when he was still begging subcontractors for patience. The man whose business proposals I edited at midnight. The man whose mother I drove to doctor appointments because he was too busy. The man whose image I protected when debt collectors called the house. He believed he had helped me. I shut the car door. He drove forward. Not fast. That would have been kinder. He drove slowly toward the gate, leaving me standing in the rain like something he had dropped and no longer needed. The guard at the gate looked from the car to me. "Madam?" he said. I picked up my wet bag. "I'm fine." I was not fine. My throat burned. My dress clung to my legs. Rain ran into my eyes. Inside the gate, Adrian's car stopped at the security point. One guard checked the invitation. Another leaned toward the window. Then the gate opened. The mansion swallowed him, and I stood outside. A wife abandoned at the entrance of the one house that had secretly been waiting for her longer than her husband had ever loved her. Then a black umbrella opened above my head. I turned. An older man stood beside me, dressed in a dark suit, silver-haired, with a face I had only seen once in a faded photograph hidden inside my mother's Bible. He looked at me like he had seen a ghost and a miracle at the same time. "Zara," he whispered. My heart stopped. No stranger at that gate should have known my name. "Who are you?" I asked. His eyes filled. "I am Samuel Reed, your father's private counsel." My knees nearly weakened. He reached out, not touching me, but ready if I fell. "We have been looking for you for 23 years. I stared at him through the rain. "What?" Before he could answer, another voice came from behind him, deeper, older, shaking. "Zara?" I looked past the umbrella. A man stood just inside the open pedestrian gate, wearing a black suit and holding the doorway frame like his body had forgotten how to stand without pain. Elias Harrington. My father. The man whose name had haunted my mother's silence. The man I had been told did not want me. He stared at my face. Then at the little gold necklace around my neck. My mother's necklace. His hand rose to his mouth. "My God," he whispered. "Maya's daughter. Maya. My mother's name." The rain fell harder. Behind the mansion walls, music played for people who had no idea that the abandoned wife at the gate had just become the most important person on the property. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if you have ever been thrown out by someone who thought you had no one, stay with this story. Because sometimes the place where they abandon you is the very place your true name is waiting to open the gate. My mother raised me in a little yellow house behind a clinic in a town most wealthy people only passed through when their drivers took the wrong road. Her name was Maya Reed. She was a nurse. Not the soft kind people imagine when they say nurse, like it is only kindness. My mother was kindness with backbone. She could calm a crying child, scold a careless doctor, sew a wound, stretch rice for 3 days, and make one room feel like a country of safety. She never spoke much about my father. When I was small, I asked, "Where is my daddy?" She would pause. Not because she had no answer, because the answer was too large for a child. "He is far away," she would say. "Does he know me?" Her face would change. Then she would kiss my forehead. Not the way he should. As I grew older, the answers became sharper but never clear. She told me he had money. She told me his family was powerful. She told me powerful people can turn love into war when pride gets involved. She told me she left before I was born because she wanted me alive, safe, and free from people who would treat me like a problem to be managed. I thought she was exaggerating. Children do that. We reduce our parents' pain because believing them fully would make the world too frightening. The only proof I had was a photograph hidden inside her Bible. My mother was young in it, laughing beside a tall man in a white shirt. His face was half turned, but I could see enough. Strong jaw, serious eyes softened by love, his hand resting near hers but not touching, like even then the world had been watching. When I found the photo at 16, my mother took it from me gently. "His name?" I asked. She said nothing. "Mom?" She closed the Bible. "One day," she said, "if truth needs to find you, it will. Until then, do not let a missing father become the measure of your worth." That was my mother. Always giving wisdom where I wanted facts. She died when I was 24. Sudden stroke. One morning she was tying her scarf before work. By evening, I was sitting in a hospital hallway holding a paper cup of water I never drank. After her funeral, I found letters tied in a cloth under her mattress. Some were written, but never sent. Some were addressed to Elias. Only Elias. Not Harrington. Not Mr. Harrington. Elias. In one letter she wrote, "I left because your mother made it clear our child would never be safe among people who saw bloodline as property. You were away, and by the time you returned, they had already closed every door. If you ever truly loved me, find her, not through your family, through me, through truth. Her name is Zara. I searched for Elias. Do you know how many men named Elias exist when you do not know the surname? Too many. And by then, grief had made me tired. Life demanded rent. Food, work, survival. I worked at a clinic like my mother, not as a nurse but in administration. I handled patient records, appointments, supply orders, billing, and the quiet human storms that happen in waiting rooms. I was good at it. Order comforted me. Paper told the truth when people did not. I met Adrian West at that clinic. He came in with a cut on his hand from a construction site dispute. He was not rich then. Not poor either, but struggling in that polished way ambitious men struggle, wearing confidence over unpaid invoices. He was charming. Of course he was. Most mistakes arrive with good posture. He complimented my patience. Then my handwriting. Then my voice. He came back a week later with coffee. Then again with flowers. He said he liked that I did not ask him for anything. That should have warned me. Men who praise you for needing nothing often become angry when you finally need respect. Adrian told me he was building a construction company that would change the city skyline. He had plans, contacts, hunger, and a mother who believed he was destined for greatness. He spoke about buildings as if they were proof a man had defeated the ground. I admired his drive. He admired my calm. We married after 2 years. At first, we were happy. Not perfect, but happy enough to make the later pain confusing. I managed clinic accounts during the day and helped Adrian at night. I edited proposals, built spreadsheets, reviewed vendor emails, tracked expenses, and made his presentations look professional. When his company nearly collapsed after a failed project, I used my savings to cover salaries for 1 week, then 2, then 3. He cried when I did it. "I will pay you back," he said. I believed him. He did not pay me back in money. At first, he paid me back in tenderness, then promises, then silence, then criticism. Success changed the rooms he entered. Then the way he saw the woman who had helped him enter them. His mother, Vivian, never liked me. She did not hate me loudly at first. She was too polished for that. She simply looked at me like I was a temporary stain on an expensive fabric. "You are a sweet girl," she said after our wedding, "but Adrian needs a wife who can grow with him." I smiled then. "I intend to." She looked me over. Growth is not always intention, dear. Years later, I understood. She meant I was not from the right family, did not have the right surname, did not carry the right kind of shine. When Adrian's company began getting major contracts, Vivian's criticism became bolder. My dresses were too simple. My hair too natural for gala evenings. My work too ordinary. My friends too local. My silence too dull. Then Cassandra Vale appeared. She was everything Vivian wanted, standing in one body. Wealthy, connected, elegant, daughter of a billionaire developer with access to land, capital, politicians, and private investors. Adrian called her a partner, then a strategic ally, then someone who understands what I'm trying to build. That sentence hurt because I had understood before there was anything to build. Cassandra entered our marriage as a business contact and slowly became furniture. Her name sat at dinner. Her perfume arrived on jackets. Her opinions appeared in our arguments. Cassandra says presentation matters. Cassandra says wives of major developers should learn the room. Cassandra thinks clinic work is noble but limiting. I asked him once, "Are you in love with her?" He did not answer. Instead, he said, "You are insecure because you know you cannot compete." The cruelest part was not that he said it. It was that some wounded part of me almost believed him. That is what slow humiliation does. It makes you argue with your own reflection. By the time we drove to Harrington Mansion, our marriage was already full of locked doors. But I still had one foolish hope. That if Adrian entered a room powerful enough, and I stood beside him quietly enough, he might remember I had once been the person he wanted beside him before power arrived. Instead, he kicked me out at the gate, and the gate opened for me anyway. Samuel Reed brought me inside through the side entrance, but not like a servant, like someone being protected. My father stood in the marble foyer as if his legs had aged 20 years in 10 minutes. The mansion was enormous. High ceilings, white marble floors, gold light falling from chandeliers, paintings taller than doorways, fresh flowers arranged in huge vases, staff moving quietly along walls, music coming from the ballroom. Laughter, glasses, the sound of wealth pretending nothing outside its circle could hurt. I stood there soaked, hair damp, dress clinging, shoes muddy, clutching my small bag like it was the last piece of my old life. Elias Harrington took one step toward me, then stopped. Maybe he remembered he was a stranger. Maybe he feared I would disappear if he moved too fast. "You look like her," he said. I wanted to hate him. I had rehearsed hatred for years. But his voice broke on the word her, and hatred suddenly felt less simple. "My mother told me you did not want us," I said. Pain crossed his face. I searched. "Not well enough." "No," he whispered, "not well enough." Samuel stepped in gently. "Mr. Harrington, perhaps we should take Ms. Reed somewhere private." My father nodded quickly. "Yes, of course." He led me away from the sound of the reception, through a hall lined with old family portraits, into a private sitting room, with a fireplace and windows facing the garden. A woman in uniform brought towels. Another brought tea. A third brought dry slippers. I almost refused everything, out of pride or fear, I do not know. Then I remembered standing in the rain outside because my husband thought I had nowhere to go. So I accepted. While I wrapped a towel around my shoulders, my father sat across from me and looked like a man facing the trial of his life. Samuel placed a folder on the table. "Zara," my father said softly, "your mother and I were married privately." The room tilted. "What?" "We were young. My family opposed her, not because she was unworthy, because she was not useful to their plans. My mother had already arranged alliances, business ties, expectations. Maya refused to be hidden. I respected that. We married quietly while I prepared to make it public. I could barely breathe. Then why did she leave?" His eyes filled. "My father became ill overseas. I had to travel suddenly. While I was gone, my mother and uncle intercepted letters, threatened your mother, Told her the marriage would be buried, told her the child would be taken if she came forward. They convinced her I had chosen the family. My hands trembled. She wrote to you. I never received the letters. Samuel opened the folder. Not then, he said. We found some years later, after Mr. Harrington's mother died. By then, we had only fragments. Maya Reed had vanished from the address they knew. We searched hospitals, town records, old employment files, but your mother had changed locations several times. My father leaned forward. I did not abandon you willingly, but I failed you because my protection came too late. That sentence mattered. Not an excuse, a confession. The door opened suddenly. A woman in a silver gown entered, her face tight with irritation. Elias, everyone is asking why you vanished from your own reception. Then she saw me. Her eyes moved from my wet dress to my face. She froze. My father stood. Camilla, his sister. I knew without being told. Same sharp eyes. Same proud mouth. She looked older than him in spirit, though perhaps not in years. Who is this? She asked. My father's voice became cold. This is Zara. Her face lost color. For a second, all the wealth in the room could not hide fear. Zara, she repeated. Yes, I said. Maya Reed's daughter. Her lips parted, then closed. My father watched her closely. You knew? She recovered too quickly. Elias, this is not the time. You knew she existed. Mother handled that matter. I stood. My towel fell from my shoulders. I am not a matter. Camilla looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something familiar. The same expression Vivian used when she looked at me, a woman measuring whether my existence inconvenienced her comfort. No, she said slowly, you are an old complication. My father's voice thundered. Enough! I had not heard him shout before. Even the room seemed to stop. Camilla lifted her chin. You have investors downstairs. Adrian West is waiting to present. Cassandra Vale's family is here. This is not the evening to resurrect old mistakes. Adrian. He was inside, probably smoothing his suit, probably standing near Cassandra, probably preparing to beg my father for money, while the wife he discarded was sitting in the private room as the daughter of the house. Something inside me went still. My father looked at Samuel. Cancel the presentation. Camilla's eyes widened. You cannot. I can. Elias, West Construction is tied to Vale Development. The room expects. I do not care what the room expects. He turned to me. Zara, did Adrian West bring you here? I nodded. Is he your husband? Yes. And he left you at the gate? My throat tightened. Yes. My father closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like grief had become rage and was searching for somewhere to stand. Then he opened his eyes. Samuel, bring Mr. West here, alone. I shook my head. No. My father turned. I stood straighter. Do not summon him for me like I am a child needing rescue. He stopped. Good. I want to walk into that room myself. Samuel studied me. My father did too. Then slowly he nodded. Then you will not walk in wet and cold. 20 minutes later, I stood in a guest suite while two kind women helped me choose from dresses kept for emergencies. I picked a deep emerald gown, simple but elegant, with long sleeves and a waist that made me look taller than I felt. My hair was dried and pinned back loosely. My mother's gold necklace remained at my throat. When I looked in the mirror, I almost did not recognize myself. Not because of the dress, because my eyes had changed. They were still hurt, still tired, but no longer begging to be chosen. Samuel knocked softly and entered with a small velvet box. Your father asked me to give you this. Inside was a ring, gold, old, with a green stone. My mother's ring. I knew it from the photograph. My hand shook as I touched it. He kept it? I whispered. Samuel nodded. All these years. I put it on. Something settled in me. Then I walked downstairs. The ballroom was full. Adrian stood near the center, with Cassandra beside him. laughing at something one of her father's associates had said. He looked polished, relaxed, free of the inconvenience he had left outside. Then the music lowered, not stopped, lowered. People turned because Elias Harrington had entered. My father walked first, Samuel beside him. Then me. The room shifted. I felt it like weather. Faces turned. Whispers began. Adrian looked over casually, then froze. His glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Cassandra turned too. Her smile faded. Vivian West, standing near the dessert table, went pale with anger, then confusion, because she saw my dress, my ring, my father's hand lightly supporting my elbow as we descended the final step. My father led me to the center of the room. The governor was there. Investors, developers, bankers, everyone Adrian had called real people. My father lifted his hand. The room quieted. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice steady, "tonight's reception was meant to discuss new infrastructure investments. That will wait." A few people exchanged looks. My father continued, "Instead, I have the honor and sorrow of introducing someone this family should have welcomed long ago. My daughter, Zara Harrington Reed, child of my late wife, Maya Reed, my legal heir." The word daughter hit the room like thunder. Adrian's face emptied. Cassandra whispered something I could not hear. Vivian gripped the edge of the table. Camilla stood near the back, stiff and furious. My father turned toward Adrian. "And I understand Mr. Adrian West brought my daughter here tonight, then abandoned her outside my gate in the rain." The silence became sharp. Adrian looked around like a man searching for an exit that would not look like escape. "No," he said quickly. "Sir, there is a misunderstanding." I stepped forward. My voice was calm. "No, Adrian. There is finally understanding." He looked at me. "Zara, please. Please." The word men use when command stops working. Cassandra looked at him. "You know her?" I almost smiled. "He married me." A murmur moved through the room. Cassandra's face changed. Not heartbreak. Embarrassment. That suited her. Vivian came forward. "Elias, surely this is not the place." My father looked at her. "Mrs. West, your son made the gate the place." She stopped. Adrian tried to recover. "Zara and I had a private disagreement. She is emotional. She misunderstood." "Enough," I said. The word left my mouth clean. Everyone turned to me. For years, I had been quiet so Adrian could shine. Not tonight. "You told me to get out because I embarrassed you," I said. "You said real people were inside. You asked where I would go. Then you drove through my father's gate and left me in the rain." Adrian swallowed. "That is not—" "It is exactly what happened." My father's voice was low. "Mr. West, your company submitted a funding proposal to Harrington Capital, correct?" Adrian's face tightened. "Yes, sir." "Withdraw it." Adrian blinked. "Sir?" "Withdraw it before I reject it publicly." Cassandra stepped forward. "Mr. Harrington, with respect, Vale Development is also involved in that proposal." My father turned to her. "Then Vale Development should choose better partners." Her face hardened. "My father will not appreciate. Your father has made money long enough to survive disappointment." Someone coughed. "Maybe hiding laughter." My father looked back at Adrian. "You came seeking access to my capital while discarding my daughter at my gate. That tells me everything I need to know about your judgment." Adrian looked at me then. "Not with love. Not yet. With fear." That was when I knew the marriage had already been dead. Fear was the first honest emotion he had shown me in months. "Zara," he said softly, "can we speak privately?" "No. Please. You know I didn't mean—" "You meant it when you thought I had no one." The room went still again. That sentence did what documents sometimes cannot. It told the whole truth. My father touched my shoulder lightly. "Would you like to leave?" I looked around. At Vivian. At Cassandra. At Adrian. At the powerful room that had suddenly learned my name. "No," I said. "I would like dinner." My father smiled. It was small, proud, painful. Then dinner it is. I did not stay long, not because I was afraid, because I had nothing to prove by standing in front of people who only became respectful after inheritance entered the room. My father took me to a smaller dining room with Samuel, two old family friends, and eventually, a doctor because apparently rich fathers summon doctors when daughters stand in rain too long. I drank warm tea, ate soup, listened, while my father told me pieces of a life I had been denied. He showed me photos of my mother, letters he had written and never sent because he had no address. A nursery he had prepared before he learned she had disappeared. A trust created in my name when I was 2, updated every year, waiting for proof of identity. I was not just his daughter emotionally. Legally, financially, completely, I was an heir to Harrington Global Trust. $1 trillion holdings across shipping, hospitals, energy, technology, infrastructure, real estate, and private equity. I did not understand the scale. Not that night. Maybe not even now. All I knew was this. The man who asked where I would go had left me at the gate of the world he wanted to enter. And the gate had opened for me. The next morning, Adrian came to the mansion. Of course he did. He arrived early, with flowers, red eyes, and no Cassandra. Security called upstairs. "Ms. Reed, Mr. West is at the gate." I was in the breakfast room with my father, still wearing a borrowed robe, looking out at gardens my mother should have seen with me. My father stiffened. "Send him away." I shook my head. "No, let him in. To the outer courtyard only." My father looked at me. "You do not owe him conversation." I know. That was why I could have it. Adrian stood in the courtyard like a man who had not slept. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were swollen. The flowers in his hand looked ridiculous. "Zara," he said when he saw me. I stopped several feet away. He looked past me, maybe hoping my father was not watching. He was. From the window. "Good." "I am sorry," Adrian said. I waited. He swallowed. "For last night." "For what specifically?" He closed his eyes. He knew specificity was a doorway he could not charm his way around. "For kicking you out of the car, for leaving you in the rain, for being ashamed of you, for allowing my mother and Cassandra to make me feel like you were not enough, for forgetting every sacrifice you made when I had nothing, for asking where you would go." My chest hurt, not because I wanted him back, because I had once prayed to hear words like that before love became burial. "You were cruel before you knew who my father was," I said. He nodded quickly. "I know. No. I need you to understand. Last night did not reveal you became cruel because you were surprised. It revealed you were already cruel when you thought there would be no consequence." His face crumpled. "That is true." The truth landed between us. Heavy. Final. He held out the flowers. I did not take them. "What do you want, Adrian?" He looked desperate. "To fix this, you cannot. Our marriage was thrown out at the gate before I was." Tears filled his eyes. "Zara, I love you." I believed that he believed it in that moment. "But some people love you most urgently after power makes you visible." "I loved you too," I said. His face softened with hope. I let the hope breathe for 1 second, then ended it. "But I loved the man who thanked me for helping him build, not the man who called me embarrassment in front of a mansion." He lowered his head. "What happens now?" "My lawyer will contact yours." He flinched. "Divorce?" "Yes." "Zara, no. Do not beg at my father's gate for the woman you abandoned at it." He covered his face. I turned to leave, then stopped. "One more thing." He looked up. "Tell your mother she was right about one thing. I did grow, just not into the woman she could use." I walked back inside. My father was waiting in the hall. He did not say, "I told you." He did not say, "Good." He simply opened his arms. I stepped into them. And for the first time since my mother died, I felt held by someone who should have been there all along. The divorce was quick because Adrian had no leverage left. His company lost the Harrington proposal. Cassandra withdrew from their partnership within 2 weeks, issuing a cold statement about misalignment of values. Vivian tried to call me once. I did not answer. Camilla, my aunt, was removed from several trust oversight roles after Samuel investigated her part in the old concealment. She fought, threatened, cried family loyalty, and then settled when documents began appearing, with her signature attached to silence. My father did not pretend his money erased his failure. That mattered. He asked how to be in my life, not how to control it, not how to display me, how to be in it. We moved slowly, painfully sometimes. He told me stories about my mother that made me laugh and then cry. I told him how she sang while cooking, how she tied scarves, how she saved patient thank you cards in a shoebox, how she died still believing she had protected me from a world that would swallow us. She did protect you, he said once. From you too, I replied. He nodded, eyes wet. Yes, from my weakness. I appreciated that he did not argue. Months later, I visited my mother's grave with him. He stood before the stone for a long time. I failed you, he whispered. Wind moved through the grass. I placed flowers down. Then I said, she raised me well anyway. He smiled through tears. Yes, she did. I did not move into the mansion permanently. Not immediately. I kept my small apartment for a while, because I needed a place that did not arrive with security guards and family history. My father understood, or tried to. The Harrington world was overwhelming. Lawyers, trustees, board members, holdings, properties, foundations, people who suddenly wanted to meet me. People who suddenly remembered my mother kindly. People who had no idea who I was but already wanted something. I learned slowly. Samuel taught me. My father insisted I take independent advisors not connected to him. That was wise. Trust needed structure, not just emotion. I chose to direct my first major foundation project toward clinics for women who had been abandoned, displaced, or financially controlled. My mother's name went on the program. The Maya Reed Women's Health Network. The first clinic opened in the town where she raised me. When I cut the ribbon, I wore her necklace and the green ring. My father stood in the crowd, not on stage. I chose that. He respected it. After the ceremony, an older nurse hugged me and said, "Your mother would have shouted at all of us for crying." I laughed, then cried harder. Adrian watched the opening online, I heard. He sent a letter afterward, not asking for reconciliation, just apologizing again and saying he had begun therapy. Good. Far from me. That was the best place for his growth. 1 year after the night at the gate, I returned to Harrington Mansion for a family foundation dinner. This time I arrived in my own car. My driver opened the door, but I stepped out before he could help, because old independence does not vanish just because luxury arrives. The gate looked different. Not physically. Inside me. I stood there for a moment, remembering the rain, the wet bag, Adrian's taillights, my own voice warning him not to expect me home. Then my father walked out to meet me. Not because staff could not, because he wanted to. "Welcome home, Zara," he said. I looked at the mansion, then at him. "Not yet," I said softly. He smiled. "Welcome then." That was enough. During dinner, he announced a new trust amendment, giving me full independent authority over my mother's charitable allocations. Not as a gift, as rightful inheritance. People applauded. I accepted calmly. Power is less frightening when you decide it will serve others before it serves your ego. Later that night, I walked through the garden alone. A fountain murmured. Moonlight silvered the paths. For the first time, I wondered what my life would have been if my mother had stayed. Would I have grown up here? Would I have been spoiled, lonely, protected, trapped? Would Adrian have respected me if he met me as a Harrington? Maybe, but that kind of respect would not have been love. That is the lesson I carried from the gate. Anyone can respect a powerful surname. The real test is how they treat you when they think you have no shield. Adrian failed that test. So did Vivian. So did Cassandra. So did Camilla years before. but my mother passed it. She loved me before the world knew my value. She hid me, not because she was ashamed, but because she refused to let powerful people turn my childhood into a custody war. My father, late as he was, began trying to pass it too. Not with grand gestures. With patience, with truth, with listening when I was angry, with accepting that being my father was not a title he could claim in one emotional night. It was work, daily, slow. Humble work. People often ask whether I regret not telling Adrian about my father earlier. No, because I did not hide treasure from a good husband. I unknowingly revealed the truth about a bad one. If he had loved me well, the revelation would have blessed us both. Instead, it exposed him. That is what hidden identity stories often miss. The secret does not create the betrayal. It reveals who was already willing to betray. My husband kicked me out of the car at my father's mansion, unaware I was a trillionaire's daughter. But the real story is not that I was rich. The real story is that he thought I was poor enough to disrespect. He believed status decided human worth. He believed a wife without a powerful family could be thrown away quietly. He believed shame would keep me small. He believed I had nowhere to go. And he was wrong. Not because of the mansion. Not because of the trust. Not because of the Harrington name. He was wrong because even standing in the rain, before the gate opened, before Samuel spoke my name, before my father saw my face, I was already worth more than the treatment he gave me. The inheritance did not make me valuable. It only made the world notice value that had been there all along. If you are listening from your own gate, your own car, your own moment of being pushed out by someone who thinks they are your only road forward, hear me clearly. Do not measure yourself by the door they close. Do not let someone's embarrassment become your identity. Do not chase a person who only wants you beside them when you improve their image. Do not beg for a seat in a car driving toward your humiliation. Step out if you must. Stand in the rain if you must. Hold your bag. Hold your name. Hold the truth that you are still whole even before the gate opens. Because sometimes the place where they abandon you becomes the place where your real life begins. Sometimes the family you were denied finds you. Sometimes the letter your mother hid, the ring she kept, the name you never knew, the truth buried under years of silence, all rise at once. And sometimes the man who asked where you would go has to watch you walk into a mansion he was never worthy to enter. My name is Zara Harrington Reed. My mother was Maya Reed. My father is Elias Harrington. But before any of those names mattered to the world, I was a woman in the rain who finally stopped begging a cruel man to see me. And that was the first inheritance I claimed.